This is an OPN production.
Welcome to this episode of Olia's Opinions, the new podcast where I take a look at the week's newest and hottest current events, movies, television, and music. I'm Armon Owlia. I'm a journalism major at Drexel University in Philadelphia, and it is time now to enter the new school of thought. Well, we are now at the 4-episode mark. I am actually really excited about this. This is a major thing for me. I began at the beginning of the month, October 6th. Of 2017 was the first taping date. It was actually a discussion with Liz Meckler. You can go back on SoundCloud and take a look at that. I liked that show. I mean, not many people like that show. I liked it. It was a good starting point. And ever since then, I've really appreciated the feedback. I've appreciated everything that has sort of come my way ever since then. So thank you for that. I have been listening. I have been keeping tabs. I've been keeping notes. There's been a lot going on, and I'm really excited to get to it. So this week, we're going to be doing the news. So this is the very first ever installment of our end-of-the-month tradition called In Case You Missed It. So essentially, I'm just going to be looking throughout the entire month and talk about 2 or 3 news stories. So we're going to go, there's a bit of a pattern in this. We're going to go international first, then we're going to go more domestic, and then we're going to go super local. So for super local, I'm talking about local as in Philly news. So if you don't want to listen to the local, I do understand. I will completely understand that, but just go straight to the end, to the credits and to the thank yous, because there will be a lot I'll be discussing there. So yeah, it's I'm really excited about this week's In Case You Missed It. This is really all about bringing people together, which was always the goal of this podcast, bringing people together, and sort of the difficulties of actually bringing people together, how the forces that break people apart. But before we get to that, I want to address something for next week's show, which is essentially we're doing a music episode. And I'm happy to say that we have a guest that I will be interviewing for next week's show. He is a singer and a rapper. He's actually recording his first few songs right now. He is in a competition. He actually recently did a freestyle with Wyclef, which I will play during the commercial break. I enjoyed it. I think you guys will as well. He is Marquel, and he will be in the studio next week to talk about his music, to talk about his inspiration, to talk about his life. He is beyond phenomenal, great singer, but also a very great person. I know him personally, and he is just as great a person as he is a singer. So I can't wait. Next week we're having Marquel on the show. Marquel, we can't wait for you, and we're just really excited for you. So we're about now to go into In Case You Missed It, but before we get into that freestyle I mentioned before with Wyclef and Marquel, that is actually going to be playing right now. This is a Olia's Opinion exclusive. You will only find this here. And so here we go. This is the official world premiere of Wyclef and Marquel freestyling. There's no official title for this. So here we go. We'll be back after this with In Case You Missed It. So don't go away.
You told me play anything and you gon' freestyle. I keep it feeling my chest, my heart feels so. I keep it going, I don't really care about the flow. Wyclef he starts to play, so you know I'm about to sing. It's easy when but it's enticing. Like Bryson on the mic, son. Can't stop me, I'm ready to go. Give me the mic, you know.
Woo!
That's what I'ma do. I'ma sing a little song for the crowd, that's you. And Wyclef next to me, you know we about to sing. You know we about to sing.
Oh, Jesus.
When I'm like this, it's enticing. I'm like racing on the mic, son. This is just what I do. And they said they'd stop me. They said that they knew my plan. They said I was just a kid. I'm a man. Step up to me, I ain't playing. I'ma keep it going like this. Is he with my flow? I know I'm like this. I'm the man, I can do anything I want to. When I put my mind to what I got, it's true. I don't know. He's really about to go. I'm loving this beat, I'm loving this flow. And if I had my voice, I would really go in. But you know how it goes. I mean, this is my chance, this is my life, this is my sign. I'ma take it in, I'ma do me, I'ma get mine. Yeah. Woohoo! Yeah. Inspire me, dog.
Yeah. So that was Marquel, who will be our guest next week, freestyling with Wyclef, who was actually here in Philadelphia recently. I thought, first of all, apologies for the for the quality of recording. This was picked up by a relative of Marquel. We will not name names, but overall, I mean, after listening to it, if you really listen to Marquel, he did a very good job, and I really do think that the freestyle that he did was top notch. So Marquel, well done. We cannot wait to have you on the show, and we can actually play your actual songs when we get here when you get here next week. So Marquel, thank you so much. So with that out of the way, and that being said, it is now time for In Case You Missed It. Let's do it. So, in this month of very distressing news and very shocking news, we're going to start with the biggest piece of international news, and that is Catalonia declaring independence from Spain. Yes, this is actually big news right now. So, what's been going on is that if everyone knows where Barcelona is on the map of Spain, that region is called Catalonia. It's essentially its own region, has a very different culture from mainland Spain. So it's different, like Barcelona's culture is essentially different from Madrid, from Ibiza. Very different culture, right? So for the last 700 years, they've essentially been going back and forth on whether or not Catalonia and Spain should be its own country. And Catalonia has been given a sense of autonomy within the Spanish government for a number of years now. However, there have been some events in Europe dating back as far back anyway as 2009 that have sort of led to not only this but a lot of other events that happened in the world, not just in Europe but also across the globe. So in 2009, I think many people remember this, the economy worldwide was in recession. As a result, America took a nosedive, Europe took a nosedive. Now, America, under President Obama, was able to recover relatively quickly. We were able to get back and become economically stable within 2 years. Europe, however, was not as lucky. So what happened was a lot of countries were going into debt. So, of course, you hear about the bailout in Greece and Spain, to name other countries, to name a few. And what happens is this: because of that, there are countries such as Great Britain that are worried that if another thing like this happens again, that they are going to be affected. However, there is no evidence of that. This is a one-time event. the EU was able to fix all that. They were able to fix all these mistakes. However, the idea was planted in the heads of the Brits, and as well as other countries in the European Union, such as France, such as Germany, such as Austria, and of course Spain, who of course is dealing with this. Italy has dealt with this as well, and it's now begun a nationalistic turn, which in this day and age is not good. This really began, the nationalistic turn actually began before the U.S. election, began with Britain's vote to exit the European Union back in 2016. This really sort of kicked off this nationalistic turn. So after Brexit, of course, in the U.S., Donald Trump won the election, but that was a long time coming in the U.S. because normally, anyway, we have sort of an 8-year cycle. We have 8 years Republican, 8 years Democrat, and now we're going 8 years Republican. However, this is sort of a super Republican. This is the most far-right Republican Party we have seen ever. So this has really become more of a nationalistic America. And then after that, we have Marine Le Pen, who was a candidate for the president of France against the eventual winner, Emmanuel Macron. Luckily, she lost because France is not a very extreme country, but the fact that she was even in there and she had a lot of popularity really shows sort of the strength of nationalism that's slowly sweeping over France. In Germany, even though Angela Merkel was still able to hold on to her seat, we have, for the first time since the end of World War II, a major German party, which is a rightist party. It is a pro-Germany, anti-EU party. It gained 96 seats in German parliament, which was the highest amount of seats gained. Makes it the third most popular party within the entire German government. As for Austria, Sebastian Kurz, who is the current, if I remember correctly, the Prime Minister of Austria, I might be wrong, just let you know. I know he's the leader. He has begun to form a coalition government with Austria's pro-Austria party. So essentially, they've become even more nationalistic, and now we're coming to Spain, which sort of has been an eventuality. I think many people were anticipating this. We were not anticipating this as quickly, and we were not anticipating also a massive pushback from Spain saying, no, you cannot break from us, and we're going to make sure, we're going to do all in our power to make sure that that does not happen. And actually, I'm actually happy that they're doing this, because this type of nationalism we've been seeing this type of nationalism before at different points of history. Most recently, however, this type of nationalism was present in World War II. Now, at that time, Germany was slowly beginning to rise in military. Of course, Hitler was the leader in Germany. Neville Chamberlain, of course, the Prime Minister of Britain, very much Britain first, didn't really focus on the bigger picture, wasn't focusing internationally. The United States was focusing on their own issues because, of course, we had the Great Depression during that time. We had to focus on our own people. And everyone was focusing really on themselves and building it up. And then when the war broke out, it became even more nationalistic because, of course, we're representing our own countries. So, again, this type of nationalism is nothing new. But I dare say this is the most nationalistic we have been all over the world since World War II. And this cannot stand. Simply because we're essentially doing nationalism in a world that runs on a global economy. Now, since the 1990s, we've had technology such as the internet that has been popping up and has made the world even more interconnected. The only problem is in that we have not cultural imperialism, that's completely different, but we sort of have a cultural backlash that a lot of Western culture is being inserted, and people fear that they're losing in touch with their roots. As a result, we have as strong of a push forward as we have of unifying a culture, creating one culture under all. We have a lot of pushback. So from the people who are saying, oh, we're not being, let's say it's Germany. So we have American music coming into Germany, but then we have the other side going, no, we're not German enough. We need to push back. And this has happened in the U.S. That's actually part of the reason why Trump won. And part of the reason actually why Spain and Catalonia are having so much difficulty. Nationalism will not work, and the only way we can really bring people together is we stop focusing on nationalism, we stop focusing on what makes us American enough, or German enough, or Austrian enough, because we're all human beings. We all need to unify, we all need to rally around each other. That's pretty much it. Not get simpler than that. My personal view on this, Catalonia should not break up from Spain. It will not work out for them. Economically, it is a bad decision. Politically, it is a bad decision because they have to pretty much restart their government all over again. It'll take a very long time for them to get situated, and there's not really a high chance of success. Right now, the Spanish government is actually doing pretty well, and a secession, I always mess up this word, a split up, let's just say, splitting up from Spain's government would be a bad idea. So don't do it. In the long run anyway, it's the best decision you can make. So that's it for Catalonia. The next part is something that sort of, again, brings people together. Amazon, which is now one of the most well-known companies in the world, as well as one of the most valuable companies in the world, are currently looking in the United States for a new headquarters. Now, not many people understand why this is such a big deal, but this is it's a really big deal on the economic front, as well as the political front. I'll give you an example. Before Henry Ford and GM decided to settle in Detroit, Detroit was really well known for its shipping and its shipbuilding. It wasn't really known for much else besides that. After Ford and GM move into Detroit, Detroit becomes Motor City. Now it's essentially a major name in the lexicon. I remember when the economy crashed, everyone was talking about, oh, Detroit's going bankrupt because of the cars. Yeah, so it's a major part of the corporate lexicon. It's a major part of the American political lexicon. So whatever city Amazon chooses, simply because Amazon is such a large company, it will be a major deal. And not only that, it'll also bring people together. It will decrease unemployment, and it'll create opportunities for people who are not from that city, who are not even from the United States, to come into the country, to gain opportunities, to learn. We can bring people together within this scope, and this is an amazing opportunity. In terms of the city, though, where they should go, I mean, Philadelphia, I have heard, is putting in a bid. Rose Grieve actually will be talking about that in the Triangle. Not sure if it's coming out this week or next week, but it is, I guarantee it's going to be a great piece. But I was actually talking with her earlier today, and we discussed that Philadelphia is not the best place simply because of the fact that, number one, the infrastructure isn't, it's okay, but it wouldn't be strong enough for a company like Amazon to come in and actually do business here, number one. Number two is that the airport here is not really that big. It's not really that busy. So they don't really have many resources at their disposal. Now, the cities that I think they should consider, and if they haven't considered it already, then I recommend, if anyone from Amazon is listening to this, listen carefully. The places I recommend would be, number one on the list should be Dallas, Texas, because first of all, the unemployment rate is high enough in Dallas that if you go in there, you will make a considerable impact, number one. Number two, the infrastructure there is great. We have Fort Worth Airport, which is one of the busiest airports in the world, has some of the best resources in the world, already has sort of the business know-how. The people there are amazingly smart. Dallas might be the best way to go in terms of headquarters, plus the fact that, you can really bring people in, and it makes the area much more diverse and much more, I think, it creates strong publicity. The one city besides Philly I recommend they don't do is Las Vegas, simply because, Silicon Valley is sort of like, it's really nothing but tech companies and probably Stanford University, but also Vegas is just essentially outside the main gambling center, is essentially just desert. There's not really much you can do in terms of the infrastructure, and the only traffic we have is sort of people coming in and out of the actual casinos of the actual city itself. So Philly and Vegas is a no-no, but Dallas, Texas, absolutely. Amazon HQ search, major deal. I recommend everyone keeps an eye out on that because whatever happens, it's going to be amazing. And finally, we're going to go now into our local news, which is, I was reading this in the Inquirer this morning. It was about the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Foundation. Yes, they were doing a profile piece on that with one of the players. I forgot her name, but they were talking about how this charity started, of course, by Ed Snyder, who was the former owner of the Philadelphia Flyers before his passing. It gives young kids the chance to learn how to play hockey for free, and this is really for at-risk kids, like for kids who don't really have that much money. It gives people it gives kids the chance to foster their talent young, and it gives them the chance sort of to learn about things that they wouldn't get the opportunity to learn about in that opportunity. In sort of their social standing. And it really does bring people together. It really creates this very strong community, and it rallies a whole group of people behind a major event. So I'm happy for what the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Foundation is doing right now. I recommend they keep up the good work. They're doing absolutely amazing with the stuff they're doing. But that is it. That is our show for today. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at House of Armon. Again, next week, Marquel will be on our show for the music episode. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast here on SoundCloud and also on iTunes. You can go to iTunes Podcast, type in Olia's Opinions. You can find all 3 of our episodes as well as this one. And don't forget to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching the show. And until next time, keep loving, keep learning, and keep debating. We'll see you next time on Olia's Opinions. Bye-bye.
This has been an OPN production, recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.